A lot of folks focus on leadership as it relates to how they're showing up in their professional endeavors. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can find a way to be more empowered or get rid of a lot of your limiting beliefs as a human being, that is then going to translate into better success, better results in your professional life.
Hi, I'm Jason Harris, and you're listening to Soul and Science. Fast forward your marketing mind in about 20 minutes. Today, I'm speaking with Lisane Basquiat. She brings more than 20 years of operations, change management, and staff empowerment experience to her company, Shaping Freedom. Her career growth started in staffing, operations improvement, and corporate-level human resource decision-making for large firms, including Prudential and American Express. She provides seminars, personal one-on-one consultations, workshops, and several self-improvement events to advance growth journeys for teams and individuals alike. With her family, she recently developed the King Pleasure exhibit, a retrospective on her brother's art, which opened in LA after a successful run in New York City. In this episode, you're going to learn how maintaining the personal and professional balance is key to personal health. You'll learn the importance of organic team building exercises to rebuild and internally scale an organization. You'll learn how to best handle a career pivot and transition to potentially see your personal growth. And you also learn how she brought personal reflection, remembrance, and insight to the process of honoring her brother, Jean Michel Basquiat, through the new King Pleasure exhibit. All right, let's dive right in. All right, I would like to hear what led you to your current path of shaping freedom. You started in the financial world. Did that feel like something you always wanted to do? Is it a path that you fell into? And then tell me about your pivot.
Yeah, it was something I never wanted to do.
Okay.
I'm the daughter of a Haitian father and a Puerto Rican mother. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. And in the household that I grew up in, like many other people, the path was pretty straightforward. It was, you go to school and then you get yourself some kind of a corporate role somewhere, even though my family was quite entrepreneurial. That was the expectation. And so I found myself in working within in a corporate environment. I worked on a equity sales desk for quite some time, working for Payne Weber at the time, and then enjoyed a pretty lengthy corporate career ultimately in organizational change management and organizational effectiveness, which meant that I implemented large scale projects. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the people. I liked the work I was doing. And there was also something in there that didn't feel completely aligned with what I really wanted to do. And through a series of questions, internal discovery, what I learned was that while I enjoyed the process of working with failing lines of business or with people, department heads, of figuring out what it was that they wanted next and helping to kind of lead those projects into that, what I discovered was it wasn't that work, it was the process. It was the process of getting internal business partners to speak to each other. It was the process of unraveling things and taking what seemed to be very complex and breaking it down into manageable pieces so that we could rebuild. I became a coach at some point in there while in my corporate career. And there came a point where I realized that what I wanted to do felt like the process that I was leading project teams through, but that I wanted to do it in a different environment. I wanted to work with people, with human beings. And I also knew that by working with human beings on their being and how they were showing up, they could then take that learning and translate it into better experiences for themselves and for the people that they worked with within the corporate environment.
And it seems like what you're doing, that background and that experience, which led you to what you're doing now, it's really corporate change and corporate growth which is now almost translated to personal change and personal growth.
Absolutely.
So it's very maybe similar levers that you're pulling or pushing on, but at one-to-one scale versus a massive organizational scale.
Exactly. And it's getting to the root of it. I mean, it really is about leadership. And a lot of folks focus on leadership as it relates to how they're showing up in their professional endeavors. And with the work that I'm doing is really kind of bypassing that and going to the person, because the how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can find a way to be more empowered, or to be better at setting boundaries, or to get rid of a lot of your limiting beliefs, if you can do that as a human being, then that is then going to translate into better success, better results in your professional life and in the relationships that you have around you.
I always talk about personal and professional growth. It's all connected. It's all linked
Absolutely.
together. And I like that approach. Without naming names, because I know you can't, I'm sure you can't do that. Can you just give me one or two of the biggest transformations you've seen that you've been able to help people with?
Yeah, this is an older story, but I was working with a team, or these two business partners. They owned a company, a small business.
Company X.
Yeah, Company X, and they had a team of people that worked with them, and there was a lot of dysfunction within the team. So they asked me if I would come to help to resolve some of that and to get the team communicating more effectively, and which I agreed to do. But what we started with was the two partners, because ultimately whatever was happening within the team had to be, kind of an outgrowth of what was happening between the two partners. And so I wound up working with them individually and then together, and then with the team. Well, in working with them, and having a few conversations with one of the principals, that person decided that what they wanted to do was to leave the business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was a little blown away by that. And so this person decided that, so what started off as a team kind of resolve wound up being an exercise in supporting this person in figuring out how to share that information with their partner, and then how to filter that information down to the team, and then how to rebuild the team in the absence of that other principal. And that person wound up moving across the country and going to do a completely different thing. And it was pretty amazing.
Well, I love that story. And you mentioned that your family was very entrepreneurial, but the conventional wisdom was to go into this corporate path. And now you're entrepreneurial in your path now. You can be entrepreneurial, but not be an entrepreneur, because there's a big
Exactly.
difference there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that was in your upbringing or in your family that didn't necessarily put you on the path to that right away?
I'm from a first generation household. And so as an immigrant coming here from Haiti, um, my father believed that the road to success was a white collar profession. Even if you were of an entrepreneurial spirit, the goal from his perspective was to get into a more traditional role, a white collar role, preferably lawyer, doctor, engineer, something like that. Looking back on it from where I sit today, Jason, it was really about proving both to myself and to my parents that I could do it.
Yeah.
That I could get into an environment where I was able to get myself promoted to a place that was that showed accomplishment, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I got in and did that, and I was, an executive, and I was doing great work, and I was making good money, but I didn't feel there was something missing for me. I didn't feel deeply connected to the end game of what I was doing. It became very rote. It was, I would go in, there'd be a failing, line of business. I'd, lead project teams toward fixing it, hand it off to someone to handle it operationally, and then move on and do the same thing. And so I felt like I was in a bit of a trance, an Iago trance,
Oh, wow.
actually, where I was
Okay.
just like, okay, so what am I going to do? Oh, it's a mess. Let's have these conversations,
Yeah.
And so for me, I realized that that was not sustainable for me personally. And I feared and was very concerned that if I didn't do something to really address what I was saying from the inside, what I wanted from the inside, that I would just be in this cycle forever. And that wasn't something I was willing to do.
It's always brave to break out of anything where you're feeling trapped. It's always hard to do. And then once you do it, you're usually wonder what took you so long. you know,
Exactly. Yeah. Simple, not easy. It was a simple decision. It wasn't an easy decision, but it really was very simple.
when you're working through, helping individuals amplify their personal power, do you have a sort of system that you've established in how to do it, like a 4-step process or whatever it might be?
Absolutely. Uh, the work that we do first is to really work on their foundation, to work on their emotional and mental foundation. And so that work involves taking a look at values, meaning what's important to you in the different areas of your life, in your career, in personal relationships with your family, uh, um, with fun, with your physical health. So we work on figuring out what's really important to a person. And then we talk about what it is that that person is wanting to solve. What is the problem that is causing them the most angst? And then we talk about setting boundaries. That's always like one of the very first, there are three things that are the very first things that we work on. And one is accountability. It's getting that person to make that decision, or assessing their willingness to make a decision to be 100% accountable for the results that are happening in the world around them and within. Setting boundaries, meaning getting very clear about what matters to you, what you want in your experience and what you don't. And then the third is clearing up the health of the relationships that they're in with the people around them, professionally, personally, and in their families.
I always believe strongly in writing down your personal values. For our company, we launch with 7 values. We talk about those values. We present them to all our clients, what our values are. Because it's amazing. Most people don't know what their values are. They have an idea in their head, but they don't put them to paper. And they sort of go along without really analyzing or thinking about them.
It's pretty incredible. And it's also, once you're clear about what your values are, it's kind of like a in a space and time. And then as you resolve certain issues, you get down to really the real meat of what your values are. So for example, when I'm working with people and we lay out values, then we go back and we take a look at some of the areas where they've had issues in the past, and they can see very clearly why some of those relationships or jobs or situations went in the direction that they went in. And then that gives them a door into resolving it for them, understanding how to decision things moving forward, or how to come to peace and to forgive the situation that they were in.
I also like this. I love this idea of like boundaries and accountability, because I think there's so much that we think is not in our control that is in our control.
Absolutely.
To understand things are more in our control than we think. That's really valuable. What do you think what makes you you? What is your thing in your fabric that makes you really, really good at this?
My compassion
Compassion.
and my ability to see, and it's really the same thing that I was doing in corporate, my ability to see what might appear to be a very complex situation. I have an ability to hone in on what the actual issue is, because a lot of times we get caught up in the story and we get caught up in the ways that we got to where we are and the problems, and he said this and this happened. And I have a way of really getting down to what the meat of the situation is and doing it in a very direct and firm, yet kind and compassionate way.
Yeah, I love that. Really you can pinpoint the issue, and when there's a lot of noise, you can really
Right.
find that thing.
And to listen to what the person is saying beneath the words that
Yeah.
they're using.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I'm going to switch gears. I've heard that you're opening up about the idea of sharing your brother's story as you put this exhibition together, King Pleasure, which I went to.
You did?
I went to it twice in New York. It was
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. I brought 3 different friends each time, shared the love. How is building and sharing this, your brother's life work to the public? Why did you decide it was time to do that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I didn't realize, and if I missed that piece of information, please forgive me. But thank you for visiting the exhibition,
Oh,
and
it's amazing.
thank you for bringing people.
Of course.
We actually just opened in Los Angeles on the 31st of March in LA, and my sister and I and my stepmother decided to do the exhibition because there are people for 2 reasons. For those who haven't seen it, it's a very personal exhibition. It's not necessarily an academic or scholarly uh, hanging of his work. It's more about giving people who want to know more about Jean Michel insight into him, who he was, and how he lived. And we made the decision because people really wanted to know. And we also had works that had been in storage for, the 3 decades since he passed away. And we wanted people to have the opportunity to see those works and to experience those works. And we also wanted them to have the ability to do so in more of a familial environment for themselves, and not on, white walls, the white walls that sometimes can be a little, um, seem unapproachable for people. So we really wanted to bring the complexity of, who Jean Michel was and still is in popular culture to, into the experiences of families and people.
I know the reception's been great for it. We're going to talk about marketing a little bit. This was a very, put on by your stepmom and you and your sister. And I thought the design of it, the website was cool. Like, it was all just really well done. The whole experience of how you journey through it. How did you think about marketing this exhibit?
This is our family story. And so the marketing of it was really about being, coming from our hearts. We weren't attempting to do anything or be anything other than who we are in relationship to Jean Michel and in relationship to his story. So we marketed it by talking about that, talking about him, talking from our heart, really being the, connected to his life, connected to what we created together, and really speaking to those questions that we've gotten over, a period of a few decades. And then also, doing all the things that you do in marketing, the digital marketing, and making sure that people understood the experience or had the opportunity to have insight into the experience through sharing the experience of visitors with other people. We focused in on some of the works. We focused in on our story as a family. Um, yeah. How did you wind up going? What drew you to go see this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, did I see any marketing about it? I think I saw it on social media and someone had posted that they had been or it was opening or something. And then I just went right to the site but I got tickets and then I went again because it was so amazing. One thing that's always really important, I think the naming, it's a very sticky name, King Pleasure, I think. Just like Shaping Freedom, like simple, catchy names, I think really stick out. And I think the way you guys named it really just, stuck with me. And you could kind of tell by that. And then it was presented by the family. You're like, oh, this is not what I think it is. This isn't like a typical exhibit. This is something different. So it was kind of marketed, I thought, just by the way you guys set it up.
Well, that brilliance is or the nod to that brilliance is actually due to my niece, Sophia, who
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I think my sister Janine was talking to her family, and we were trying to figure out a good name for the exhibition. And Sophia, who's an aspiring filmmaker, and at the time was a student, she went in Sophia fashion and laid out kind of a business case for the name King Pleasure,
No way.
and
That's
say,
amazing.
yeah, and she's like, I think it's really endearing, and and she talked about Moody's Mood and who it was after, and as soon as she laid that out, it just felt like the absolute best. It felt perfect, and I think that from in terms from a naming perspective, I think that the name of something should very clearly, it should have some energy to it.
Yeah. Yep.
King Pleasure, when you think about King Pleasure as it relates, the words King Pleasure as it relates to Jean Michel Basquiat, Jean Michel was an artist and a painter, but he also, produced music, and, he got involved in film. He acted in a film. He did so much. He worked so hard. He played so hard. And so it felt like the perfect descriptor for Jean Michel Basquiat.
I have a couple more questions actually on Shaping Freedom that I want to ask. Because, personal development is such a hot topic now. And there's a lot of, coaches out there. Do you feel like you need to differentiate, that you do something different? Do you feel like you're doing your thing and everyone else can do it their way? I don't know, just kind of riff a little bit on your approach.
It is all coming down to family legacy for me, because ultimately the issues that people experience while they're growing up, as they're going through the trajectory of their childhood experience, is the sum total of the work that the people around them, their caretakers and other people around them, have been willing to do. So I believe that if someone takes that responsibility to really be accountable for how they're showing up in the world and how they're showing up for themselves, it will then permeate out into their families, and then families are stronger. And I believe that as families are stronger, it grows into, community, and we all can exist uh, in a more joyful way. And I know that sounds kind of like woo woo, but I strongly believe and know that, we deserve and it's your birthright to feel joy. We embrace the horrible things that happen in our lives. People embrace the horrible things that happen in their lives like a coat. It's like, oh, my problem, and they kind of live in it, and they wrap themselves up in it, and they speak through it. And then when something wonderful happens, it's almost like folks are afraid to embrace it, as if by embracing it or allowing the joy in, you're gonna, the second, what do you say? The shoe drops. The shoe is going to drop. So I really believe go for joy.
I kind of just got an image as you were talking about your legacy and what you're trying to do, which is you help one person, that improves a home. Maybe that improves the street. Maybe that improves the neighborhood. Maybe that improves,
And I've done this work for myself. I had a moment, we won't go into all of it, but I had my moment where I was like, hey, wait a minute here. You're willing to do this for other people, and you're not willing to do it for yourself. Something's wrong here. What's really going on? And that sent me into a quest to understand what was really happening here inside of Lisane and why. And so the work that I do with other people, I have done myself. I have, done the work of taking a look at all the relationships in my life, taking a look at my role in some of the issues that were happening in my life, and really doing what I needed to do to get my life to a place that I wanted it to be.
That must be so hard. That's like cutting your own hair. That's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to sit there and go, well, let me lay out my values. Like, what is important to me? And then to be like, oh, wow, wait a minute.
All right. I'm going to ask a couple quick questions at the end.
Let's do it.
Are you with me on this journey? Here we go.
I'm with you on this journey.
What are give me one of your role models in your life?
My brother.
Your brother? Okay.
My brother taught me what can happen. As an artist and a creative, he was unfiltered. So whatever you got on the canvas, whatever you got, in whatever it was that he created was a full expression from within him. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of, moving yourself out of the way and just letting that energy go. And it's not easy to do. But I think about him a lot as I'm doing things and creating things.
Kind of unfiltered, fearless, a little fearlessness.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite quote or mantra that either you tell people in your work or that you think about as you're, living your life?
How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Man, that always gets me.
I know.
I got to start doing everything better. All right. Where do you feel, do you have a place that you go to if you're stuck or if you can't crack a problem? Do you have a method or a place that you go to that helps you break that open?
I stop everything and I listen to, typically if I'm in a place where I'm stuck, it's because I am creating a situation of decision fatigue for myself. And so what I do, like if I'm stuck, stuck is closed energy. So what I do is I give myself space and I just create some space in the moment or in the day or in the situation so that I can sit down, meditate, journal, and allow, because the answer's there. The answer's always there, but it's a matter of whether or not I am going to honor the need for that answer, for that solution to have the space that it needs.
How would you describe your business style in one word?
Authentic.
That's a good one. I'm feeling that one from our conversation. All right, we're wrapping up. Where can people go to find out more about you?
You can find Shaping Freedom on all platforms, Instagram, the TikToks, Meta and all those things. Also on our website, which is shapingfreedom.com, really easy to find. I have a podcast, the Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat podcast, where I talk to people who are doing extraordinary things and who are creating things in the world and talk to them about their process and how to use personal growth techniques and things in the work that in the way that they're creating what they're creating. I also have a Shape Your Foundation program that is a 3-day intensive program working on the things that we just talked about. And it really is about what I said, which is taking care of those foundational concepts is what I share so that people are better positioned to achieve the things that they want to achieve.
Amazing. I'd love everyone out there to follow Shaping Freedom. Also listen to the Shaping Freedom podcast.
And go to LA and see Jean Michel Basquiat King Pleasure in LA also. It's a good time.
Everyone in LA, or if you're going to LA, go check it out. All right. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Jason.
Soul and Science is a Mechanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, Tyler Nielsen, Emma Swanson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.